Chapter 96, Forever Gone. Riel and Akio were happily chatting over the phone. Then suddenly, she felt pain in her belly. And then she screamed, "Oh God. I think my water broke." "What? No, that can't be Riel. You're only 8 months on the way." Akio was getting nervous and fearful. "Where is Hyun?" "Riel then," she screamed in pain. He left." Alexis ran for help, while Louis was trying to contact her boss. Meanwhile, Akio dashed to his garage, took his Range Rover, and drove speedily to Rieler's residence. Noemi panicked and called Rieler's doctor, who became completely worried. Dr. Korea instructed the ambulance to get Riel, while nurses prepare for the ER for her arrival. Akio arrived on time together with the ambulance. Noemi showed the ambulance medics where Riel was while Akio followed. Seeing Riel in pain, Akio went to her and soothed her. "I'm here, Riel. Don't fear." Akio instructed Noemi to ride with Riel, while he would follow in his car, bringing the secretaries with him. "Had you reached Hyunaki?" Akio asked anxiously. "I'm sorry, sir, but he was not answering his phone," Alexis replied. "If something bad happened to Riel, he will get what he deserves." "I will never forgive him," Akio growled, hitting the steering wheel. Alexis was trying to contact Hyunki, but was still waiting for an answer. Nui thought of getting in touch with Hwan Chul. Likewise, Junie tried to contact Hyunki, but there was no reply. "Hello, Sir Hwan Chul. It is Louis. Mrs. Riel is being rushed to the hospital, and we could not reach Sir Hyunki. What happened to Riel?" "How could you not reach him? He was supposed to be at home, wasn't he?" "No, sir. He left during the party, and didn't even let Mrs. Riel know he had left. Mrs. Rieler's water broke, and I think she will give birth, sir." "What? But she's only in her 8th month. What hospital was she brought in?" "I'll accompany you." Louis said it was Chonghua Hospital, where her doctor would meet her for her emergency delivery. Riel was in so much pain from her labor that Dr. Korea and her team were preparing to help her deliver her baby. And before doing so, Dr. Korea asked her companions about her husband. Akio said, "I'm Akio Hinode. We couldn't contact him, doctor. Is there any problem?" "Yes, Mrs. Han is in so much pain and already in active labor. Is there any member of her family you could reach out to, Mr. Hinode?" "Yes, her mom, Dr. Marcel Kalma. She is a pediatrician. You have to contact her immediately, please." Akio felt something was wrong. He contacted his right-hand man, Joel. "Pick up Dr. Kalma using my private jet. Could you tell her it is an emergency? Her daughter is in critical condition. Please hurry." Joel took the private jet from their hangar and soon approached Dr. Kalma's residence with the company car. "What is it, sir?" asked the maid. "Tell Dr. Kalma, Mr. Akio Hinode sent me. Her daughter is in critical condition and is very much needed in the hospital." With no questions asked, Dr. Kalma didn't waste time to see her daughter. She was airlifted from the jet to a helicopter and landed at the hospital's helipad. She was met by Dr. Korea, who showed her to the operating room. Riel was suffering from severe bleeding and high blood pressure, and Dr. Kalma could hardly bear the agony Riel was going through. A little later, a scream from the OR resounded. Everyone halted. Then, there was silence. It was deafening and terrifying. Previously, while Hwan Chul, Alexis, and Louis were trying to get in touch with Hyunaki, Rosemary and Hyunki were having fun at the beach. Later on, they decided to return to their villa. "I'll shower first, before we get dinner at the hotel restaurant, baby," said Rosemary. "How about joining you instead?" Hyunki simultaneously walked into the shower. Hyunaki stared at Rosemary with fervent longing. Rosemary raised her face with a saucy, flirtatious look. Then he pressed his lips to her neck. He grabbed her waist close to his, and they started kissing inside the shower, becoming demanding as the water flowed over them. Hyunki's mobile phone rang continuously, but he never bothered to answer, wanting to consume their passion and be lost with time. After their ardent moment, Hyunki became aware of the unending ringing sound from his mobile phone. He picked up the phone irritably, uncaring about who the caller was. "Yes? What is this call about?" Hwan Chul replied sobbing. "Where are you, Hyung? You called just to ask me where I was. Just tell me why you called." Hwan Chul replied with a lump in his throat. "Riel is gone, Hyung." "What do you mean she's gone? Did she leave without notice?" Hyunki was puzzled. Hwan Chul was then crying. "Riel is dead, Hyung. She's gone." Hyunki froze, feeling goosebumps all over him. and was speechless. This is not a time for jokes, Huan. If you only wish to wake my conscience, Huan Chul, in a low tone replied. Auntie Marcella is preparing for Reeler's flight to Manila. For her funeral, Hyun-ki dropped his phone, and with muffled sobs, he slumped on the floor. Rosemary was startled. What is it, Hyun? What happened? Hyun-ki rose, quickly collected his things, and said, let us hurry. Let us leave. Now. Hyun-ki ran towards his Lexus, and Rosemary followed suit. She was quiet, but wondering what made Hyun-ki shaken and terrified. He sped off like a daredevil, wanting to be at the hospital to see his wife. He quickly made a turn at the parking lot, and ran as fast as he can, towards the elevator going to the operating room. There he was met by Hwan Chul, Alexis, Louis, Junie, and Akio Hinode. Hyun-ki saw Riel under a white sheet on a stretcher being pushed out of the operating room. He was about to go to her, when Dr. Kalma, with a dark, severe face, approached Hyun-ki with a loud and heavy slap. How dare you? You still have the guts to come near my daughter. Hyun-ki was speechless, filled with grief. The nurse aides pushed the stretcher to the elevator, but Hyun-ki pulled himself together, and tried to stop them. Please, let me see my wife, Hyun-ki implored. After everything that you did, you chose to be with that woman, rather than with my pregnant daughter. Your rights for Riel have been relinquished, Hyun. Let her leave in peace, Dr. Kalma said in a taut voice. Hwan Chul dragged Hyun-ki towards the elevator, to let Dr. Kalma and the aides bring her remains to the helipad, where Akio Hinode's helicopter awaited. The aircraft landed in the hangar, where the chartered plane awaited Reeler's return home. The hospital was tranquil again, after the drama that occurred. Hwan Chul and the two secretaries left the hospital grieving. At the same time, Hyun-ki was still shaken and weeping in the hospital's lounge. Having been mesmerized by the presence of Rosemary, who wanted to comfort him, he swayed her hand off him. He stood up, and went to see Dr. Korea in her clinic. Hyun-ki greeted her, and asked, Doctor, I wanted to know the cause of Reeler's death, please, implored Hyun-ki. Dr. Korea stared at Hyun-ki, with a raised eyebrow and a curled lip, then replied. Her high blood pressure went up, and she was bleeding profusely, and then later had a cardiac arrest. We tried our best resuscitating her, to keep her and the baby alive, but she gave up. I'm sorry for being unable to save your wife and the baby, and I couldn't say more, Mr. Han. My condolences. Hyun-ki left the clinic, as if the whole world had crumbled upon him. He went inside the hospital chapel and stayed there in silence. Rosemary left him alone, thinking he needed more space to grieve. It was early morning when Hyun-ki returned home. Junie took his car to the garage, saying nothing. The entire house was quiet, and the faces of his household staff looked gloomy, and he could feel their grief. Looking at everyone's faces, he stared at Junie and asked, why was she rushed to the hospital when it was not time yet to deliver? Her water broke? Sir, Junie replied sadly. Hyun-ki felt guilty and asked, why didn't you call me? We did our best to reach you, sir. But it would be helpful if you had answered our calls. Alexis called your resort, but they said you didn't check in, so we can't tell where you are and how to find you. With furrowed brows and tears, he asked, when did Dr. Kalm arrived at the hospital, since we could not find you, sir? Dr. Korea asked for Mrs. Reeler's next kin, and was asked to see her immediately, because she was already critical. Mr. Akio Hinode fetched Dr. Kalma by his right-hand man using his private jet. Hyun-ki went to their bedroom to look around, and at every corner of the bedroom were Reeler's images, then went to see the baby's room. He called the maids to clean up the two rooms, their bedroom and the baby's room, and made sure that all windows and glass door of the balcony were locked, and the curtains closed. Then he told them to move his things to the fourth room close to the study room. From now on, that room will be my bedroom, and the two rooms be kept under lock and key. No one should open those rooms, as long as I say so. He took the keys and kept them somewhere in his study. Hyun-ki was preparing to leave for work when Noemi gave her resignation. Why are you leaving? No one is driving you away, and you're most trusted here. Noemi, I'm sorry, sir. Since Mrs. Riel is dead, I don't have a reason why I should stay on. I felt so bad, and she was also the reason why I was hired. Now that she's gone, I can't stay on, sir. Please let me leave. Hyun-ki paused for a moment, and then he nodded his head. He took a check from his briefcase and gave Noemi's payment for her services. Now that Riel is forever gone from Hyun-ki's life, would he marry Rosemary? Keep following the exciting episodes in the Windows of the Heart series.